Story 1. This goes back a while, but I used to check cracked.com daily. Then one day, they fired all their major talent and turned it into a bunch of list articles. Story 2. Next door. At this point, it is just elderly people complaining about everything and posting long, incoherent ramblings, then arguing with people in the comments, especially when the commenters are in their 20s or 30s. Story 3. First was Neopets because my friend sold me bottles of sand for all my gold. Then it was StumbleUpon since I got all stumbled out. I tried MySpace and learned a little HTML, but Tom did not let me share enough personal information. Tumblr was great until people had less time for their creative sides and they banned not safe for work content. I no longer frequent Facebook, but they require you to have a profile for Marketplace, so I just never update my profile. And soon to be Reddit with forcing the poor app, the nonsensical awards, ads every 6 posts, ads in the comments you cannot collapse, and more. Story 4. I'm slowly breaking up with Google. They have gone markedly downhill since breaching the firewall between advertising and search teams, but then to demand artificial intelligence training rights to appear in the world's most popular search engine is unacceptable. Now that it is trained, their outbound traffic has collapsed. The trouble is, competing search sites are even worse, especially at understanding context. They return 2 links to the grammatical opposite of what you searched for, and the most popular general links related to the first word of the query. But there has got to be a follow at your own risk approach. Story 5. All my inactive websites from over 20 years ago. They had their place, but they were all taken down by their creators or should have been removed by someone else. Remember the Sneeze, Maddox, or Homestar Runner? They were good reasons to use Google really simple syndication feed. Another thing that no longer exists. Story 6. Cracked used to be funny, but now it is all lists pulled from Reddit. I even found a quote from a Reddit post I had made. Cracked basically just steals content now instead of producing something original. Story 7. Woot.com. When Amazon bought it, it just became a dumping ground for their products that did not sell. It took away all of the fun the site used to have. ebaumsworld.com turned into mostly reposts from Reddit, so I just started using Reddit instead. Story 8. BuzzFeed used to love those "Are you a mermaid or a witch?" kind of quizzes when I was 14. Now it has faded. Story 9. DeviantArt used to be unique and customizable. I made friends there, and we drew each other's characters and complimented each other's art. There were corners for all genres, fandoms, and every type of art. You could be a photographer, a traditional artist, a seamstress, a pixel animator, or anything else you could think of. It was welcoming and inspiring. Now it is empty, borderline unusable, and has the same soulless layout as any other website, all because of corporate sellout and greed. Story 10. Yahoo Answers had an outdated design, chaotic moderation, and faced competition from Reddit and Quora, which offered better answers. Yahoo Answers once felt like it was overrun by trolls. Even Yahoo had to give up and shut it down before anyone could finally answer the question, what is the meaning of life? Story 11. Amazon was making me a lazy and impulsive shopper. It turns out I can buy most of the things I regularly purchase on Amazon from the brand or another store for less money. My husband was surprised by a grocery bill a couple of weeks ago, but I reminded him that half of those items used to be bought at Amazon or CVS Pharmacy. Story 12. LiveJournal was known for drama before Facebook. It was a nice platform for people to share their thoughts and experiences. Then, suddenly, it became toxic and Reddit was rising at the same time. My inner introvert preferred interacting with people who would not care about who I was after reading my comment. Is Reddit perfect? Not at all, but it is a mix of various imperfections. I guess one day soon I will wonder what happened to Reddit and what is next, but I have stayed here for 15 years, longer than any other social media site I have used. Story 13. After about 18 months, I realized that it was degenerating my worldview and eroding my moral standards. I believe I have recovered. From what I have read about it since, I left none too soon. There was another website that truck drivers came to rely on called Weather Underground. The site displayed every radar station across the United States and Canada. You could get radar and satellite data in real time. However, the bandwidth for such a site was too much and they closed. Story 14. Creepypasta.com I stopped because the wiki is better. I still go back sometimes along with the secure, contain, protect wiki. I forgot the name of it. I will put it in the comments when I find it. Edit. It is the Wikidot page. Story 15. Google has really gone downhill. It used to be a legitimately great search engine, but now it is full of artificial intelligence garbage that cannibalizes the best search results, advertisements disguised as legitimate links, and functions mainly as a Reddit topic finder. Story 16. Adult content websites. I am happy to say that I am no longer interested and do not feel the need to visit these websites. Story 17. There are three that come to mind. Cracked fired all the good writers and became boring with repetitive list articles. Tumblr, I used to run a movie review blog. I tried to keep it going after they banned all the adult content, but then they flagged some of my reviews for adult content. It was frustrating, so I gave up. Facebook, 1 out of every 10 posts on my feed is something I chose to see, either from a friend or a page I liked, while the other 9 are either advertisements or recommended posts. I cannot even default to chronological order. I am very dissatisfied with that. Story 18. Twitter and Facebook first became cesspools of right-wing extremists. The latter became a large source of artificial intelligence-generated conspiracies and fake news. Bots are present everywhere on both platforms. Story 19. Cable news network. Many of their articles are behind paywalls. Misinformation spreads easily because it is free, while news struggles to spread because it is restricted behind paywalls. Story 20. Overclock.net, also known as OCN, was a forum where I used to be a prolific poster. It was sold to a large corporation that changed the design, increased advertisements, and ultimately diminished the website's quality. The site was excellent for viewing custom PC builds from incredibly talented individuals. I even posted a couple of builds, including a case I built from scratch, which received a digital award. The community and website were fantastic, but now it is a defunct site. Story 21. Threads is the most toxic platform and negatively affected my algorithm, feeding me extreme doomsday opinions that caused me distress. I had to delete it. Story 22. Aside from Reddit and social media, I have stopped visiting Facebook, Snapchat, and Instagram for many reasons. Mostly, I just don't care anymore. I am tired of seeing so many advertisements and people I don't know or care about. I have my own life to live. Why spend it scrolling through other people's lives? Story 23. Twitter. Thank God my mental health has been doing much better. I used it for about 2 months recently, and boy, oh boy. Story 24. I used to read Penny Arcade religiously, but about 10 years ago, I stopped. I do not think there was a specific reason, other than it started feeling more preachy than funny. Could have just been where my head was at that point. Story 25. Craigslist used to be a platform where you could literally find everything. Over time, it became dominated by scammers, questionable advertisements, and untrustworthy individuals. Story 26. Pro Football Talk. Florio removed the comments section and increased the use of the site to push agendas, especially selling his books that no one wants. The problem was the comments were mostly filled with reasonable discussions, even at a time when other websites were shutting theirs down due to people being uncivil. I think it was because many of the comments on each article were focused on how terrible some of his opinions were, and he is very thin-skinned. Story 27. Way back in the day when the Affordable Care Act first went through, I said I was opposed at the time to the individual mandate because my region had just been destroyed by a natural disaster and there were no doctors' offices left. It seemed unfair to force me to pay for doctors that didn't exist. I got a lot of responses telling me to kill myself, prompting the usually bad moderator Brendan to send me a private message saying how sorry he was. Story 28. Other than social media, there was a website where people could ask fun questions and polls, but it became too cluttered with American political content. Story 29. Dig, Fark, Something Awful, Cracked, Newgrounds, MySpace, and OkCupid all used to be regulars. Content declined in quality, or the sites were no longer necessary. Story 30. DeviantArt broke the search function years ago when they updated to a terrible new interface. In recent years, they have focused heavily on artificial intelligence-generated content. Story 31. I used to check out this entertainment and culture site Pajiba every day. One of the editors used the phrase underage women, which is incorrect, in an article and received major criticism from the readership in the comments. Then a writer defended using the phrase underage women in a whole article, which seemed like defending the editor, and the editor published it as a confirmation to his formerly loyal left-leaning audience. The majority of the readership then went after her in the comments, and the team handled it poorly. I saw a social media post of the team all out drinking about a week later with a smug caption, despite the mass exodus of the community they had built over years. I know one of the writers who had been there when the site was gaining popularity ended up writing for Vanity Fair. Some really talented people went through there. It is really sad. I might be remembering wrong, but the editor and head of the site would always reply to critiques with a post about how he grew up poor. Many of us did, but that does not mean you escape accountability. That turned into a rant. Story 32, Newgrounds. I am no longer a carefree, edgy 12-year-old who is looking for free Flash games to play on his family's PC. Story 33. Got a dumb phone in summer 2023. Deleted my Twitter account of 14 years in early 2024, and finally deleted my Instagram account of 11 years yesterday. I do not plan on looking back and never will. Story 34. When I was younger, I used to use Wikipedia a lot, but nowadays I hardly ever use it. Over the years, I have come to view Wikipedia as an untrustworthy source, and I believe this is justified. Regarding many topics, the content varies depending on the language in which it is presented. This is especially evident in historical articles. Often, the same event is described differently in different languages, which feels hypocritical and unreliable. For example, in some articles about wars, the winner of a conflict may differ depending on the language, with each version favoring the country that speaks that language. This bias makes it hard to trust Wikipedia as an objective source of information. Story 35. Twitter and Meta. I think they are both damaging to society, and I do not understand why so many people continue to enrich these awful people. Story 36. Nexus War. I loved that game, browser-based, tiles, text-based. Had some great times on the internet relay chat with my guild members. Story 37. Giant Bomb. Back in the early to mid-2010s, it was an everyday visit. I listened to the podcast every week, twice once G-Beast started. I watched every quick look, almost every live show, frequented the forums, contributed to the wiki, and made a lot of friends. But when the core crew left, I never jumped back in. I tried here and there, but the magic was gone, and it didn't feel as much like spending time with old friends. Story 38. Amazon initially sold low-quality counterfeit products instead of genuine goods. Additionally, when I ordered a few times from well-known brands, the items I received appeared to be counterfeit. Furthermore, I can now find items at the same or lower prices in other stores across the United Kingdom. Story 39. Game FAQs. As a child, I spent a lot of time on the Random Insanity and Current Events message boards. Story 40. Jalopnik was sold, writers left, and it just was not the same, so I never went back. I spent so much time on Opposite Lock. Good times. Story 41. 9GG. I was very interested in that site in late high school and early college, but I grew out of that style of humor. It also became incredibly racist and homophobic, to the point where you could not even pretend people were just joking anymore. Story 42. All the webcomics I used to follow, I now follow none. I do not even know when, how, or why that happened. Story 43. Facebook is similar to Twitter. If I am reading an article about a game company or franchise and they mention a tweet and provide a link, I will check that tweet and then stop. I used Facebook years ago and stopped using Twitter for obvious reasons. Story 44. It was funny and a daily read for me, but the racism gradually worsened to the point that I was no longer comfortable reading it. Story 45. The website b0g.org contained images, but it has been closed. Story 46. RuneScape. Microtransactions saved me from my addiction because the gradual decline of the game weaned me off the aspects that I was addicted to. Story 47. Amazon. Honestly, many of the large retailers, I consciously support locally owned small businesses now, even if it is less convenient and more expensive. Story 48. FIBOX.BZ ceased operations to avoid legal action. Story 49. I used to check 9gag religiously. Then it got boring, and now I get my memes from Instagram. I did not even notice how or when it happened. These days, I do not see any posts from friends, just memes. Story 50. Stack Overflow as a software engineer. It used to be a cornerstone of day-to-day programming help, but now everyone just uses chat generative pre-trained transformer. Story 51. Dipley and the lowdown used to be interesting. These days, they copy and paste each other's articles. The articles themselves are just reposted Reddit and Instagram posts. Story 52. Dipley and the lowdown used to be interesting. These days, they copy and paste each other's articles. The articles themselves are just reposted Reddit and Instagram posts. Story 53. Dipley and the lowdown used to be interesting. These days, they copy and paste each other's articles. The articles themselves are just reposted Reddit and Instagram posts. Story 54. Best score is gone, which is probably good because I became desensitized to awful things. Morbid curiosity got the best of me. Story 55. Back in ancient times, there was a picture gallery located online that had a large library of celebrity pictures. Nothing nude or stolen, just images gathered from all over the internet. Eventually, it closed because maintaining the domain became too costly, but it was my daily stop for celebrity pictures. When I was young, I went through a celebrity women need angel wings phase, and that was my source for the pictures. Story 56. FetLife has too much trauma associated with it. There are many creeps, and I do not think it is well moderated against predators. Story 57. Kitsu.io was a site similar to MyAnimeList. I loved it until a certain user began to dominate it with toxic views, and people would overly support her. Even if someone made a small, innocent, non-sexual joke about something related to her, she would overreact, and other users would gang up and attack the person who made the barely noticeable joke. Her husband would constantly defend her and ignore other users trying to defend themselves, essentially acting as a white knight. Sorry for the rant. I had been on the site since 2013, and it made me sad when I had to leave 3 years ago because I was being attacked by that woman. This happened after her husband said something racist to me, as I am Asian. The same user also thinks that children should be allowed in adult stores and near BDSM content. Story 58. When I stopped using Facebook over a decade ago because of a bad breakup, people from high school thought I had actually died in 2012. Story 59. The website I visited most recently and extensively is /film. I used to consider it a decent news website, but in the past year or so, it has fully embraced low-quality clickbait content. I have not visited it in a long time. Story 60. Farmville. At first, it was fun, but I stopped because there was no clear goal in my mind. Then they added a feature to make and sell products. One day, I felt like the guy in that cocaine commercial from the 1980s. I plant crops so I can sell products, so I can get fuel, so I can plant more crops, so I can sell more products, so I can get more fuel. It wasn't fun anymore. It felt like work. Story 61. Newgrounds I grew out of. Dorkly and College Humor were acquired and either changed or shut down. ThinkGeek was acquired by GameStop and shut down. Story 62. Facebook is the obvious choice for me. I used it all the time in the mid-2000s to keep in touch with family and friends. I have not logged into it in at least 5 years. Story 63. Fextralife used to be a great source of information on almost any game I was playing, but the quality of the information declined significantly. I also discovered that the pop-up videos on their website were direct links to their YouTube videos. Regardless of whether I wanted to see their video, I was forced to contribute to their view statistics, even though I was not on YouTube or intending to watch their content. I would not mind if I were actually going to YouTube and genuinely watching their videos, but the fact that they forced me to participate without my consent and are likely profiting from this tactic is disappointing. Story 64. A significant portion of the traffic went to their forums, specifically the miscellaneous section. The memes, the absurd characters, the pseudoscientific information created a glorious cesspool of the internet. Then they shut the forums down. There is no point in going to that site now. It is also where I learned the internet truly does not live forever. Many classic memes and copied text passages from there have disappeared. Story 65. The Verge, I used to visit it at least once a day, but nowadays every interesting article is behind a paywall and makes me leave the site instantly. Story 66. The Audiovisual Club. I used to visit multiple times a day. There were significant layoffs, a change in website layout, a discontinuation of features, and more. Story 67. Dollsmania was my favorite growing up. Why? I grew out of it, I guess. Also, I don't know if it is still around anymore. Story 68. Addicting games. Kind of because Flash died, but also because I can buy my own PC games now. Facebook. Because it is no longer a place to share stuff with friends and see what old acquaintances are up to. I have no control over what I see, so it is mostly rage bait, ads, and trash. I only keep it because of Marketplace, certain groups, and events that are impossible to find otherwise. Story 69. Fark, the rest of the internet evolved and they did not. God bless Drew Curtis for that, I suppose. Jalopnik Peter Thiel disrupted their platforms significantly. Facebook and Twitter, I was never on Instagram. Life is better without them, and Reddit triggers the same urge in my brain for online validation. Now I watch for upvotes. Tumblr, they banned adult content, to be honest. Story 70. This one, except for now, I suppose. All the people turned crazy here because of the former president. God damn it, humans just want someone to hate so we can hold a sense of superiority. Story 71. Addicting games for online games and options like Club Penguin or Habbo Hotel. I used to play many online games via browser when I was younger but would not even consider that now. Story 72. I used to enjoy visiting people.com for celebrity gossip. However, now it mostly features Kardashian content and various reality television personalities. Story 73. Psychedelia Denmark. Sadly, it has kind of died out and does not really have any active users anymore, only a couple maybe. Also, I do not use as many drugs anymore. Story 74. AV Club. They used to do recaps of every show I was watching live, and I visited most days to see what they had to say about the show I watched last night. For the past few years, there has been no overlap between the shows they are recapping and the shows I am watching live, so I have no reason to visit regularly. Story 75. Facebook, I posted a comment that, while factual, did not go down well with the company, so I was disciplined. I have since shut my account down and have been without it for 7 months now. Story 76. I think the website was Don Dashing. It was a website filled with choice games that shut down a year ago. Story 77. 9gag comes to mind. It was a fun meme website 10 years ago and somehow turned into a hub for far-right incels. Story 78. Cracked. He used to be so incredible, and I was a long-term devotee who read every article every day. The senior editors were some of the most brilliant authors I have ever read. Story 79. Gizmodo used to report on emerging technology but became advertisers once Hulk Hogan took their money. AskMen. I was a newly single person in my 20s. We have all made mistakes in our youth. Story 80. Tech Report was the absolute best for in-depth video card reviews. People still do not compare to the quality they produced. They sold the site and it became a clickbait platform with what appeared to be fake reviews. They even stopped hosting images for their previous content and changed the credited authors to different people. I migrated from Dig to Reddit during that major shift. Story 81. Today's headlines are no longer funny, even when rewritten. I have reached that stage in life. Story 82. Cracked.com. I am not even sure if it still exists. It was my absolute favorite. I read their new content every day. I stayed through the decline but finally stopped when certain events occurred, which I only vaguely remember. Michael Swaim and Dan O'Brien left, and that was the end. Story 83. I used to go to GameSpot every day to read about video game news. That slowly moved to Imagine Games Network as their content at the time was better in my opinion. When I stopped caring about consoles, I moved to PC Gamer because it was more focused. Now I just read random opinions in the comments on Reddit instead of browsing any specific site. I am certainly less informed now, but overall it is probably better. Story 84. 9 gag. When Rage comics dropped in popularity, they just became less funny. Emails from an **** hole. Like prank videos, but in emails. After you read 10, you have pretty much read them all. Story 85. I am surprised nobody has mentioned the points guy. Red Ventures is the opposite of Midas, everything they touch fails. Story 86. For quite a long time, I was a member of Suicide Girls. Initially, I signed up because I wanted to see more of one of the models, but was pretty let down because I didn't realize it was all softcore pinup kind of stuff. It was nice, but didn't really meet my needs, to be honest. 2 weeks before my membership ended, I decided to check out their chat to see what the community was like. It was very active, with a large group of regulars who were all good friends. I was intimidated, but eventually managed to join in with a couple of jokes and got some laughs. It was really cool, and I decided to renew for another month. After a while, I was invited to the private group of the regular chatters. There were jokes, pictures, casual posts, and tons of laughs. After a few years, a difficult breakup, and some chance topics, I ended up talking to another person a lot more. It was a bit flirtatious, and more chatting evolved into texting and Skype calls. I ended up in a long-distance relationship with her, between myself in Toronto and her in Los Angeles. I went down there a couple of times, had the chance to attend chatter meetups and parties, and met many people in person. It was amazing. The relationship didn't last. Distance was too much of a hurdle. I spent less time in chat because I was still hurting and needed a break. My membership expired, and Suicide Girls has since removed chat entirely. The only real reason I would have continued to use it was for the chat. I am still in contact with the group, though. Someone started a Discord, and it has all the same faces, but it has been more than 10 years and is not as active. It was a really special place for what it was, and I'm really happy I got to experience everything it came with. My ex and I are still cool, too. Story 87. IGN used to be a good source of information and reviews. Now, every review they publish makes me question their accuracy. A rating of 10 is likely a 6, and a rating of 1 is also likely a 6. Story 88. Cracked. Is it still a thing? I don't know. It used to be a good read, but went downhill. Now I read books by former writers and listen to podcasts by others. Story 89. Pinterest is full of advertisements and artificial intelligence-generated photos, making it unusable. If you scroll incorrectly, you might end up on Amazon or Wayfair. Story 90. Facebook. If I am not drowning in advertisements, I am seeing Make America Great Again posts from my toxic relatives and people I have not seen since high school. Hard pass. Story 91. I gave up Twitter months ago and have not looked back. This simply became a place of hatred. No one gets along. I graduated high school and junior high a long time ago. I don't want to be inundated with people who behave worse than school children. I also stopped using Facebook about 11 years ago. Took too much attention and time, so I cut it out. Most major news websites also have paywalls. That's okay. I don't want to pay to read opinions. I just want headlines, so I turn to international journalism sources. Story 92. This is going to be niche, but FFTrealm was a message board that had a game built into it based on the original Final Fantasy tactics that I used to be obsessed with from my freshman year in high school until graduation. I still occasionally go there once in a blue moon out of curiosity and nostalgia, but gradually visited less and less until one day I realized I had not visited in years. A combination of life happening, building new connections, and things like Reddit contributed, since the community there was pretty small and is even smaller now. Story 93. Dig destroyed itself, forgetting that the users create the content and the content is why they have users. Story 94. X, formerly Twitter. There used to be a time when a small percentage of users were decent. Now it is either Nazis or narcissists with nothing in between. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.